channel. Today I am back with another foundation review. Today is all about the new Nars Light Reflecting Foundation. This just launched about a week ago, maybe a week and a half ago now. Time flies when you're having fun. I've been testing it for a few days. I have a lot of thoughts on it. Before we jump into the information about the foundation, up here on the screen is an image of my age and what I like and what I dislike in foundation. I feel like it's always really important for the audience to know what the person behind the camera likes and dislikes in foundation, because makeup is so subjective, especially when it comes to complexion products. We all have different skin types and skin concerns, so I feel like that information is really important. And also, my skin is a medium to tan with a warm, sometimes olive leaning undertone, so I will leave popular foundations out on the market and what shades I wear in those foundations so you guys can get an idea of my skin color based on the shades that I use in today's video. So with all of that out of the way, let's go ahead and jump into the information. We're gonna keep it kind of short and sweet. This foundation retails for $49. It's available now at Sephora, Nars, a few other retailers. All of the places that I find it, I will link it in the description box down below. Now, I was very curious about this because I personally love the Sheer Glow from Nars. It's one of my absolute favorites. My friend Gabe from Gabe Loves Makeup, he heard that Nars is actually getting rid of a foundation, kind of phasing out a foundation, so this might be kind of the replacement of that foundation. I'm not sure what the foundation is. That's just kind of rumor has it. I do kind of hope it's not the Sheer Glow, because this is a little different than the Sheer Glow, which I feel like this foundation is kind of the middle ground between the Sheer Glow and the Natural Radiant. It's kind of like right in between those two. So I kind of hope that they don't use this to replace the Sheer Glow, but we'll see. So just a quick deets on this foundation. It is a medium buildable coverage. It's a natural finish, breathable all day wear. It is powered by advanced skincare ingredients suitable for most skin types, including sensitive skin. It's also acne skin friendly, and it's kind of a hybrid foundation where it's that skincare incorporated with foundation. So, you know, they're claiming that your skin will get better over time as you wear it, which I'm not mad at that, because I do believe that we wear foundation for several hours. Some of us wear it, 12, 13 hours during the day. So it is nice to have skincare in our foundation. So this is supposed to be makeup that looks like skin. It acts like skincare, but it feels light as air. It comes in 36 different shades, and let me tell you about the shades. All of the names are the same all across the board when it comes to the shade names in this foundation, versus the other foundations that they have in their collections. So typically, I wear the shade Aruba in the Sheer Glow. Now, this might be a tad bit too dark for me during the winter time, but sometimes I'm able to kind of lighten it up with a concealer or something, or I can wear this when I just get freshly spray tanned or something, but this is definitely more my summer shade. However, with that said, the description of Aruba in the Nars Sheer Glow, it says for medium to medium deep skin with rich olive undertones. Now, it's definitely not deep. I would say this is a tan, so I would describe this as a tan shade, not deep. But it does have an olive undertone. If you look up the description on the shade Aruba in the Light Reflecting Foundation, Aruba is described as a medium to medium deep with a cool undertone. So that threw me off, because it went from being an olive undertone in the Sheer Glow to a cool undertone in this Light Reflecting. So that kind of, I was like, wait, have they changed the undertones but kept the names? It's very confusing. And I'm just going to be honest with you, I don't like that they did that. And I don't know that they've done that with every shade, but from what I can tell, they've done it with a few shades. If you're gonna keep the same shade names in your foundations, they have to be the same color and they have to be the same undertone. That's just me, I don't know. But anyway, so that threw me off when I first ordered it. So I went ahead and grabbed the shade Syracuse, which Syracuse is medium to deep with warm undertones. I started wearing it right away. I think I wore this shade 2 days. This is a tad bit too dark for me. So I went down to Sephora and I picked up this shade, which is Stromboli. Stromboli is described as a medium with warm undertone, and it has a yellow undertone, and this is definitely quite yellow. So when I got this one, I've been combining them together, and I actually quite like the color that I get when I combine these two together. If you're close to my complexion and you were wondering what shade, I would tell you Syracuse is definitely going to be my summer shade. If you're close to my complexion, I would go a shade lighter than Syracuse for the winter shade, but I wouldn't go as light as Stromboli. So I hate that because I normally don't like to mix foundations, but this was such a hassle, you guys. I am like really struggling with the shade stuff this week with new foundations. But for reference, I will swatch these two shades next to other foundations that I have from Nars and other brands, so you can kind of use it as a guide. Maybe that will help you be able to find the right shade. But mixing these two shades, that's what I'm wearing now, and it works out perfectly. So that's all the deets on this new foundation. Let's go ahead and jump into the application. Then I will do a 6-hour daylight check-in where I take you guys outside. I bring you guys really up close and very, very personal, so you guys can see exactly how the foundation looks, not just only inside these beauty lights, because beauty lights always make everything look so much better. So I always feel like it's really important for foundation reviews to take you outside in real life and real life lighting, as I like to call it, so that you can really see how the foundation looks. Then after the 6-hour daylight check-in, we will get into the swatches of this foundation next to other foundations from Nars and other brands. Then I will come back and do a 12-hour check-in, and in that 12-hour check-in, I will get into my final thoughts. So let's go ahead and jump into the application, and I will see you guys in my final thoughts. So I went ahead and took off my sweater. I'm gonna go ahead and pull my hair back. So Stromboli might be a little bit light, but we're gonna see. That's Stromboli, and it did blend into my skin quite good. I just might want it a tad bit darker. This is the shade Syracuse. Syracuse is much darker. So that's Syracuse. They're so different, like so night and day different as far as shade goes. It's a very huge jump between the shades. If I wear a foundation that's a little bit too light, it always like washes me out, and I cannot stand it when my foundation is a little too light. I'd prefer it to be a little bit darker than too light, as long as it blends into my neck, but it just, I don't know, Stromboli might be a little bit too light. So mixing them, that's the shade that it comes out with. And I kind of like the shade that it mixes to. I think I'm gonna mix them. I think mixing the two shades together, which I hate that, especially when I'm reviewing. I'm just gonna go ahead and start applying this and just blending it all over into the skin. I've mixed it here on the back of my hand. That's a good shade. Both of those together is like a perfect shade match for my skin. I recently just got a spray tan, and my hands pretty much soaked up all of the spray tan, so they look a little ridiculous, but they look better in real life than they do on camera. I can promise you that. The camera will pick up everything like wrong from a spray tan. Like it will pick up everything. I'm gonna now push it into the skin with a sponge. I have to say, this foundation is beautiful. So it blended out just gorgeous. Like it just kind of spreads all over the face very evenly, gives you immediate like medium coverage. I don't know that I would want to build this to a full coverage because I am noticing I have a little bit of dryness going on along this side, and I feel like this is clinging to it a little bit. So if you have dry skin, kind of keep that in mind, that this might cling to certain areas. This is a foundation that kind of sets down onto the skin quite quickly. So it looks radiant, but it kind of dries to more of like a natural finish, more of a, it's not a dewy foundation. It's not a ultra hydrating foundation. Very, very impressed with the way that this looks right now. And these two shades are like pretty much, I feel like, my perfect skin match. So, and that's frustrating, I know, as a viewer, if you're close to my shade and you're kind of trying to figure out what shade to get for you. The only thing that I would be concerned about is the way that it kind of clings to the dry patches. And with that, it might cling to, you know, that skin that's like right here where it's a little bit more wrinkly, little crinkled in that area. I feel like this foundation might cling to that. So I wanted to pop on camera really quick because I've actually been wearing this foundation for the last couple of days, and I wanted to apply it today on camera because I am going to be doing a wear test. I will be doing the 6-hour daylight check-in where I take you guys outside, pull you in real close, let you guys see it, and then I will be doing the 12-hour check-in. So right now it is 9:44 in the morning. Plus this is a little bit more on the natural finish side. Even though it has a radiant finish to it, for me, it wears best with a moisturizing primer. So I've worn it with a few different primers, and the best it's looked is when I wear like the Magic Cream from Charlotte Tilbury. That is kind of my go-to. So I did wear it one day with the Touch of Silk Canvas, and I felt that it just didn't melt into the skin quite as good. And don't get me wrong, the Touch of Silk Canvas is moisturizing, but it also gives you kind of that silk veil over the skin. And I noticed the days that I wore that primer with it, it attached even more to dry spots. So I'm gonna apply today's application with the Magic Cream so that I can do the check-ins with the primer that I personally like the most. Plus, I felt like having the Magic Cream underneath it allowed it to really melt into the skin and look very skin-like. Okay, so the one tip I do want to mention, if you feel like you've gotten too much over your wrinkles, spray your sponge with a hydrating setting spray. So for example, I'll take the Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Flawless setting spray, spray my sponge, kind of get it nice and dampened, and go over that area and kind of push it into the skin, and it will kind of break up some of that extra thickness, heaviness in that area. I feel like that is probably the biggest issue I have seen thus far with this foundation, is it can be a little bit clingy, meaning it will cling to dry patches, it can cling to some of the like crinkling skin around, you know, the mouth area and stuff. So over the weekend, I noticed that that happened. Like the first time I applied it, I felt like it was just a little bit too heavy in a few areas, and I was actually just wearing the dark shade alone. And by the way, these pumps are leaky. Leaky. I've worn this foundation 4 times now. It's a leaky pump, but Nars gave us a pump, so there you go. So that's it for this application. I will see you guys in my 6-hour daylight check-in. Okay, you guys, I am back for a midday check-in. I'm sitting outside on my front porch. It's not as cold today. I still have my little Christmas tree up in my formal living room. Don't judge. So it is currently 4:11. So I've had this foundation on for a while now. Gosh, I want to say like 9, 10 o'clock, I think I applied this. I'm just going to say it's been on for about 6 hours because it roughly has. I was looking up close and I noticed that it's a little bit heavy around the chin area. And my cream bronzer did not work today with this foundation, and I'm not sure why. So let's zoom in and show you. So first, let's go over the chin area. So you can see right here It's a little bit kind of thick and heavy right here in this area. Even though I went over it with a sponge, I sprayed the sponge with the Charlotte Tilbury setting spray, but you can still see it's a little heavy in this area. It's not bad. It's one that you have to be very careful applying over texture, and this is why. Even though I took that extra step, I might have gotten a little bit heavy-handed, and this one you just cannot get heavy-handed with. If you apply too much, this is what you'll get. But if you look right here, I applied the Rare Beauty cream bronzer, and this is the first time I've applied the cream bronzer with this foundation, and it looks awful. I don't know if it's because I took my hand and kind of kept going like this. I don't know what's happened, but I have like no cream bronzer right here, and it looks a little ridiculous. But everywhere else, I feel like the foundation looks really good. I really do. I just don't like the way it looks on my forehead. Not even a little bit. It looks kind of bad. Now I've lost some of it right here around my nose area. And it can exaggerate the wrinkles just a little bit. So kind of keep that in mind. But this is how it's looking here on the texture. It doesn't look bad, like right here in this area. I just wanted to pop out here, kind of show you guys up close. I'm sitting outside of my porch. I feel like it's very important for the audience to be able to see this in real life and not in front of the beauty lights, you guys, because the beauty lights, they do make everything look so much better than real life. It just is what it is. And I cannot feel like I can give a review on this unless I'm sitting out here in natural light, in real life, and let you guys know how this is wearing. So let's go ahead and jump into the swatches of the foundation and how it compares to other shades out on the market. And then we will get into my 12-hour check-in, which will be my final thoughts. So I will see you guys then. Okay, everyone, I am back to give my 12-hour check-in and give my final thoughts on this foundation. It is currently 10:06 at night, so I've officially had this on for 12 hours. Before I pull you guys in closer, I just want to mention and kind of apologize for the audio in this video. I got a new microphone and I'm still kind of working it out. Some of my previous videos were really, really quiet. The audio was just too soft and quiet. So I adjusted a few things and then it was too loud. So it's just gonna take me a minute to get this microphone figured out. It was an expensive microphone. You know how that is. I'm just not good with any of this stuff, so it just takes me a minute to figure it all out. So I just wanted to apologize for the audio in this video. It's been kind of up and down. I'm gonna work on it this weekend and really try to kind of dial it down and try to get the perfect audio, but we'll see. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn down the ring light. We're gonna zoom in and I'm gonna show you guys how the foundation looks, and then I'll jump into my thoughts on it. I do have the soft boxes sitting in front of me. I have my camera kind of far from me and I'm zoomed in. So I think I'm gonna actually pull it off and put it on the tripod so you guys can really zoom in and see how this is wearing. You guys know that I normally buff with a little tiny bit of translucent setting powder, but I did not do that today. The only powder I used today was the Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Flawless Powder right here in this area. I'm gonna hold the camera here. It's gonna be a little jiggly, I apologize, but I wanna zoom you guys in so you guys can see how this looks. You can see it starting to break apart right here between my brows. I feel like if I went like this, I would completely remove it. You see how spotty it is? Oh, I just did, see that? So this foundation is not holding up very well. You can see it's completely removed off of my nose. and it looks quite makeup-y right along here. In my daylight check-in, I mentioned how this area kind of felt a little makeup-y. And you can see that it's still that way. You can see that it's still quite makeup-y, and it's really separated right along here, like right around my nose. You can see it sitting on the skin. See right here? But I mean, you can see my forehead is quite glossy. What's interesting about that is when I used the powder from Charlotte Tilbury, I powdered this area and I also powdered right here down the center, and it didn't hold up. I mean, you can see that. It's just like pulling away from the skin. I felt like this might be a good way to zoom you guys really up close in this 12-hour check-in so you guys can really see. So I'm gonna go ahead and put the camera back on the tripod, and I will jump into my final thoughts. I hope that that was helpful for you. I've never actually done that before, but I think I'm gonna start doing that because it just allows you to really get up close. When my camera's in my tripod, I can only zoom in so far. But taking it off the tripod and, you know, just holding it and showing you guys, that's definitely what I'm going to do from now on. But let's go ahead and jump into my final thoughts. The reason why I didn't wear powder today is because I wanted you guys to see how this does look without powder. So here's the thing, and this has been my experience. For me, if I don't powder, this is what happens. If I powder, it looks much better. I've worn this 2 days with powder and 2 days without powder. The one day that I wore it without powder, I wore it with the Touch of Silk Canvas. With the Touch of Silk Canvas, I didn't feel like I could melt it down into the skin like I could with the Magic Cream. So it was almost like I need the Magic Cream to melt it down into the skin and to prevent it from getting a little bit kind of heavy, especially like in this area. It's almost like a trade-off. If I want it to melt into my skin and not attach to any dry patches and not look heavy in my wrinkled, kind of troubled areas, then I have to use a more moisturizing primer underneath it. But it gets kind of greasy throughout the day, even with powder. But if I wear the Touch of Silk Canvas, I don't get quite as dewy with the Touch of Silk Canvas, but I also don't feel like it melts down into my skin, and I feel like throughout the day it wears a little heavier. I mean, because you can see it's a little makeup-y in this area, but with the Touch of Silk Canvas, it was even more makeup-y. So for me, the best it's looked and worn is with the Magic Cream, blending it out really good, making sure that it's not thick in any areas, and setting it with translucent setting powder, and then I get about a decent 8-hour wear. It's not going to look good 12 hours later. I've worn this foundation 4 times now for 12 hours, and it's never looked good 12 hours later. It just, for me, no matter how I work it, it will start lifting and pulling away from the skin no matter what I do. So it's an interesting foundation because when you apply it, it looks so beautiful. It does. And it does have that light reflecting to it. But it just, I can't get a 12-hour wear. But for those of you that do not wear your foundations for 12 hours, you might really, really like this. But for those that do wear it for 12 hours, if you have normal, combo, oily skin, just be mindful. Even though I have a few dry spots, I'm definitely more on the normal side. And this can get a little bit kind of pulled away from the skin and can kind of get just a little bit glossy. But overall, I actually quite like this foundation, even though I wouldn't say that it holds up to a 12-hour wear test, but there are some really beautiful things about it. And I do like the way that it looks and kind of smooths the skin out. This foundation reminds me a lot of the Shiseido Synchro Skin Radiant Finish foundation, because that one kind of gives you the radiance, but without being more of a dewier foundation. It also reminds me of the Valentino. So the Valentino, I think, lasts longer than this one does, but they both kind of have that like light reflective, smoothing effect on the skin, just like the Synchro Skin from Shiseido. And also, this is very similar to the Tom Ford Shade and Illuminate foundation. And that was what I first thought about when I first applied it. I was like, gosh, this reminds me of the Tom Ford. And in fact, I actually did a side-by-side wear test of the Tom Ford Shade and Illuminate foundation on one side and the Synchro Skin Radiant Lifting Foundation on the other, and you could not tell a difference between the two. And that is kind of the vibe that this foundation gives me. I would say the differences is this foundation has a little bit more of a dry down than those do. This one, it kind of acts as more of a natural, like, I don't want to say matte because it's not a matte finish, but it kind of has that dry down like a matte foundation does. So it dries down differently than the Shade and Illuminate from Tom Ford and the Radiant Lifting Foundation from Shiseido, but it kind of they all three have the similar look where it kind of has that light reflective, and I really, really like that. Overall, I don't think this is a bad foundation, and I actually think this foundation will work for a lot of people. I really do. Differences between this and the Sheer Glow. The Sheer Glow doesn't have the dry down like this does. So the Sheer Glow is definitely more of that glowier foundation. It's not like the tinted moisturizer from Nars. So I would say you have the tinted moisturizer that's quite dewy, right? Then you have the Sheer Glow, which is kind of got that radiant, not dewy finish, but it's radiant. Then you have this one. I would say this is right in between the Natural Radiant Foundation and the Sheer Glow. So it's almost like the Sheer Glow and the Natural Radiant Foundation kind of had a baby. That's kind of the vibes that this gives me. It's kind of in the middle of the two. It's not as soft matte as the Natural Radiant, but it's also not as glowy as the Sheer Glow. I don't know how everybody else is feeling about this. I did watch my friend Gabe's video just because he's working in the cosmetic world, and I was just curious to hear kind of the gossip on what he knew about this foundation. I will link his video in the description box down below. Gabe is amazing. I love him to pieces. But that he was the one that kind of had heard through the grapevine that Nars was going to be getting rid of a foundation. He wasn't for sure, but he was speculating that it was going to be the Sheer Glow. I like this foundation. I'm not in love with it. It's not my new favorite or anything. I do have other foundations that I absolutely love. I can see myself kind of incorporating this into my rotation of foundations, but I don't see it being a favorite. The other thing I want to quickly mention, if you know your shade with the Nars foundation, just make sure that you are buying the right shade, because it seems like the shades are not matching up. So I would recommend making sure that you get the right shade. Go into the Sephora, swatch them, look at them, make sure it's the right shade before picking it up, because it does seem like there's some situation with the shades and I'm not sure what it is. Have no idea. So those are my overall thoughts. Sound off down below in the comment section. Let us know, have any of you guys picked up this Nars foundation? If you have, share with us in the comment section down below your experience with it. That's it for the video. Thank you so much for hanging out with me in today's video. I hope you guys all have a wonderful day, and I will see you guys all in my next video. Love you. Bye.